Jesus Christ.
All right. Okay, hold on. Give me a second.
My hair
Whoo!
looks great today. It's really
Your hair
kind of
looks great.
strange.
Your hair looks great. Okay. On one. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Close enough? That's close enough? I'll
That
take
works.
that.
We'll take
Okay.
it.
Whoo! Okay, so then we're gonna. So here's just the order: NBA Finals, COVID scare, Brady MCL, Kawhi ACL, Akuna ACL, Bradley Beal over under.
Okay. Okay. I
I
like
know what
this.
you're thinking. Don't worry about it. We're gonna be fine. If it go over, we go over. Fuck it. Fuck it.
Okay.
Fuck it. What's sleep? All right. You ready?
Yeah.
All right, let's do this. NBA Finals. The series is now tied 2-2. Game 4 was very tight at the end. It was very tight. It was actually the final 4 minutes is what an NBA final should feel like. It's exactly what you want out of an NBA final. We haven't gotten that. It's been kind of a meh playoff this whole time, if you ask me. But I think these last 4 minutes were the most fun. I'm retired, so I didn't have any on the game, but it really felt nice that they were able to make the game at least somewhat interesting. So here's the final 4 minutes. Let me just recap the final 4 minutes. Under 4 minutes left, Phoenix was up 95-92. CP3 makes horrible pass, which is crazy because he's the point guard. But it leads to a Giannis layup on Drew Holiday takes the ball. He's going to make a layup, and he gets fouled by Devin Booker. It's a no call. Giannis there to follow it up. That's a layup. And then the next play, it's 94-95. The next play, Patty Connaughton hits a corner 3 to take the lead. And then after a horrible 3 attempt from like Jay Crowder or somebody. So now the Bucks take the lead. Then the infamous Giannis block. It's infamous at this point. The Giannis block with a minute left in the game. DeAndre Ayton goes for an alley-oop to tie the game at 101, and it's blocked by Giannis. To this point, I think it's the second greatest block I've ever seen in my life.
Agreed.
And some people are saying it's the first one, but context, people, that's crazy. But it was like Giannis didn't look. He just turned and jumped. It was like a reaction block. It was crazy. Yeah. It was like when the kid in Sandlot catches the ball with his eyes closed. He just didn't see it, and he just put his glove out. He's like, I caught it. That's Smalls. What it felt. Yeah, when Smalls did that, that's what it felt like.
Is number one when Kobe blocked MJ in the All-Star game?
No. Number one is when Kobe blocked LeBron in the All-Star game.
Oh, okay.
When he went left. Oh, no, number one is when LeBron blocks Andre Iguodala.
What about the splitter block?
I like the splitter block.
That's top 10. It's somewhere in there.
The splitter block is great. There's been a few decent ones. I remember when LeBron was doing chase down blocks, and I remember thinking,
dude,
why isn't everybody doing this? Then you like you get older and you're like, I guess maybe because he's like one part physical freak and the other part is like nobody was trying on defense during the regular season, so it's like a mix of those two.
Yeah, he just like read everything correctly, I think. And he had the speed to catch up. He had the athleticism to jump for it. Kind of everything. But yeah, you're right, because I was thinking the same thing. Like, why have I never seen this playing basketball before? Like, why is this all the thing now? And then you realize, no, it's like just LeBron's a freak. And like you're saying with this Giannis one, no one else does this. At his length, his athleticism, what you mentioned, it was a reaction block. I think he went in the post-game interview. He was like, yeah, I was just running to a spot to block. He didn't know the ball was going to be there.
It's crazy.
It's honestly, you replay it, and your boy was a little toasted last night and watched it when I got home because I went to a bar and watched it.
Yeah.
I watched the game, and I just couldn't stop replaying that thing they posted on Twitter. And I'm like, dude, he doesn't even look when he starts to jump.
No.
He just jumps into an area. And in the post-game interview, he was like, yeah, I thought I was going to get dunked on. And it just came with this like magical stuff. And it was like, bro, no one else does that.
That's all the shit that at the end of it all, if it goes into Giannis's, if this ends up being a Bucks win as a series, which I believe now that they can.
Yeah.
Like if this leads, that's one of those legacy defining, that's going to be played over and over and over. That's going to be one of the things that we see at the beginning of every NBA finals. Like we see Kobe, like we see Shaq, like we see Dwayne Wade, like we see LeBron, etc. That's huge.
You're going to be able to show this to your kid one day and be like, I got to see this guy play live. This is what it looked like. But you see another 6'11" dude that's able to dribble and move like he does. I mean, granted, we said that about LeBron. So, who knows? We might get 7'3" dudes move like this. But that was just insane. Like that's the peak of human evolution right there. Like, what else gets better?
It's so ridiculous. Okay, so then there's the Chris Paul turnover with 30 seconds left, down 2, and that led to the final points that, Phoenix could never recover from that. So with everything going on now, it's 2-2. And, John, let me ask you this. Has the Bucks shown you anything that say that they can now win?
Yes. Okay. I remember saying that the series was over when I think the Suns were up 2-0.
Yeah.
They proved me wrong. I'm so happy they did because they made it a really interesting series as like a neutral to watch.
Definitely.
And consume it all. I'm so happy they have because, we had talked on the show going back. We're like, man, the NBA is the one series they don't want to see is Phoenix, Milwaukee because it's not interesting at all. And that these teams have turned it into a very interesting series, an exciting series. And obviously to see Chris Paul kind of falter in those moments, as you mentioned, is something we're not used to, at least in the regular season this year. In playoffs of past, years, he obviously hasn't shown his best ability, but it is kind of crazy to see him do it after, us being used to him just being a genius for like the last 6-7 months.
Definitely.
And for the most part of his career, for the better part of his career. But yeah, I definitely was wrong about this series, and I'm so glad that I was.
It's one of those things where, as sports fans, we should like if it's not the Lakers, then I want every series to go 7 games because it's just more fun. Mm-hmm. So the fact that Giannis Antetokounmpo is doing this, and to be fair, it's not just Giannis as we'll talk about. Chris Middleton had a huge game, 40 points, 24 points in the second half, 14 in the fourth. It's not just Giannis because he can't do it, but like 70% of it is Giannis. It's one of those things where I said that I thought Giannis had to average 40 points for them to win. I still think that if the Suns play a better game, right? The Suns had 17 turnovers, which led to 24 Bucks points. So if the Suns don't do that, it's a lot like, the Suns, I think, win this game, So I still think Giannis has to average closer to 40, but because of the way the game was going, and even like Devin Booker had a 40-point game and
monster
game, but the way things were, 2 points, I think it was like only 4 points in the fourth quarter. So it's just like that, with no CP3 not playing good, and even though Ayton had like 18 rebounds, but it's like you need Booker and CP3 to both have good games. Like the 1 and 2 players both need to play good for the other team to win, because it looks like the role players are going to play great at home, and maybe one will play good on the road. Because Campaign struggled most of this series. Imagine
saying Bridges. That like 3 years ago.
Yeah, Campaign with
the Suns didn't play well in the NBA Finals because Campaign didn't play very well.
Yeah,
imagine saying that.
It's one of those things where it's truly fucking remarkable what the Suns have managed to do. It's almost like an NFL team recovering after a year. You know what I mean? It's like that parody that rarely fucking happens. And one guy, CP3, Chris Paul, comes to the Suns after they went like 8-0 last year. But it's like Devin Booker made a jump. Devin Booker played really great. Like has been showing that he just needs some help. DeAndre Ayton has improved. Like all these guys have improved. Campaign has somehow improved even with that ugly jumper. But it like they've managed to improve, and I mean, ultimately we'll see how this pans out. We're gonna do an over under later, and we're gonna do the final there. But both teams haven't played their best game against each other.
Yeah, at the same time.
At the same time, yeah, and so it'll be interesting to see what happens. I don't think that'll. I don't know if that'll happen. Maybe Game 7 that happens, but Game 7's gonna be ugly. That would be sick if it does.
Be amazing. Well, it's a best of 3 now, right? Because and so it's gonna be really exciting. Really exciting.
It's a lot of fun.
To your point about Ayton being a lot better this year, and along with Booker, but Ayton's like bragging in interviews about how shitty Paul has been to him. He's like, oh yeah, he was been a complete a-hole to me, and it's been great. Like that's exactly what he needed, right? And I think I made this point a couple shows.
Barbados boy.
Yeah. I think I made this point a couple points ago or shows ago because I was comparing how Jimmy Butler went into Minnesota and pushed players to be better, and he was hated for it there. And then Chris Paul comes to Phoenix and essentially does the same shit, and the players love him for it. So I think it's like really hit or miss with specific players on how to push them. But for whatever reason, Chris Paul, the way he's done it this year, has really clicked. And so it's just a match made in heaven, I think. Yeah,
it really depends on the players because Chris Paul, like James Harden was like, "What do you? No, you don't talk to me. You can't tell me what to do. It's too late. I've ascended into I'm a superstar, and you're coming in here to help me. You're supposed to be my number 2."
Yeah.
I don't know, like in Oklahoma City, it worked out really well, and that's why Sam Presti traded him to Phoenix. He said, "Hey, you've been such a fucking baller ass old vet. You're gonna just tell me where you want to go, and I'll figure out a way to do that." And so it's been fun to see, and I hope the next however many games are left are good. But let's do COVID scare.
Yes, this is the baseball situation that we're discussing that came out today. The Yankees had 3 players test positive, and then I believe another 3 are in COVID protocol, so they're being weighted. One of the 3 waiting on the results is Aaron Judge, who of course took place in the was front and center with Freddie Freeman bringing in Henry Aaron's wife and everything is in COVID protocol. So you just hope. Mrs. Aaron is going to be okay. But
I will say, Brian Cashman, the Yankees GM, said that most players are vaccinated, including the players that tested positive, including the All-Star players. So I believe that Aaron Judge was vaccinated. So hopefully.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's been. The part that I've read that confuses me the most is Jonathan Loaizaga, who is a reliever for the Yankees, tested positive when they played Houston before the All-Star break. So he's been in Houston in his hotel room under quarantine this entire time. Why has that information not been made public before today? If a team member of an All-Star tested positive for COVID, maybe we shouldn't let that All-Star go play in the All-Star game and spread that shit even more. So now he's putting everyone at risk. And like I said, Aaron Judge was front and center for that presentation they put on before the game. Yeah, he's vaccinated, but still, he can still spread it, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, no.
And so
that's what we've learned.
That was the confusing part for me. Like, obviously, COVID's still very prevalent around the world. The U.S. is handling it somewhat well. If you're, depends on what part of the country you're in. But it's just confusing. I'm like, hey, man, you got a teammate that tested positive. Maybe don't go, spend more time with random guys you rarely ever see in a confined space.
It is definitely it's really so this is like, I guess my whole take on this is like really kind of complicated because the MLB, and I don't know, because they haven't said, but 23 MLB teams are now at the 85% threshold of a team getting vaxxed, and then they have looser protocols.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that has something to do with the fact that Aaron Judge could go to the All-Star game, that they didn't have to mention things. It's a weird thing because we're like in America for the most part, except if you're like in the SEC region of the country. I think everybody is like as close to
if you can get
vax.
Paul Feinbaum's show on radio, you're probably not in a great area.
Yeah, if you can get AM Paul Feinbaum, then yeah, you're not vaxxed. And to the point, like there's also some of that in the baseball world, right? Like a lot of Latin players who play professional don't trust the vaccinations from other countries, and they probably, and to be frank, they don't trust their government. So it's like, and then you add that with like a decent portion of the professional baseball league believes Antifa exists, so it's like this like weird, like complicated situation where it's like you need 85%, and I don't know if this is just part of like as we see in Team USA with Bradley Beal and Jeremy Grant. It's like, those I believe both of those players are vaxxed too. So I think it's like one of those things. It's like, it's part of, it might just be part of the part of the existence of, cohabitating with a pandemic or with a virus as we are ending a pandemic.
Yeah. Luckily, I think only one player has been symptomatic, the rest asymptomatic, but I think we are starting to realize, hey, maybe we're not invincible with a vaccine. Like I mentioned, this is still prevalent out there. I think it was today or yesterday, LA County, it was just like, hey, we're going to go back to
masks,
mask indoors.
Yeah.
Which, LA, Southern California in general is a very big tourist spot. So it's most likely that's kind of where it's coming from. But still, we gotta learn from these mistakes. Obviously, we hope the Yankees are okay. All those players are okay, but they canceled today's game. And then most likely tomorrow's is going to be postponed as well. And
John,
then
I guarantee you there are Yankee fans who are like, you know what? I'm fucking glad they fucking canceled the game because we were going to get our fucking asses whooped anyways.
Yeah. But by the Red Sox, right?
Yeah, they're playing the Red Sox. They were going to get fucking owned.
Yeah. Marley Rivera, who's a reporter for ESPN, focuses on the Yankees specifically. She tweeted out earlier this afternoon. She's like, Rafael Devers just told me that he was asked not to do interviews pregame because one of the Yankees who went to the All-Star game tested positive. Devers said that he is going to undergo testing this afternoon.
There you go. I thought you were going to say Yankees fans rejoiced in the streets and they didn't have to play the Red Sox and get swept again. Could you imagine if the Yankees got swept again for the third time in a row? Could you imagine the shitstorm?
COVID's the least of their concerns if that's the case.
Yeah, they would all drive to the city of Boston. I think they would Yankee fans from the Rocks would be like, just step outside, all yous. Just come out here.
Let's just get this over with.
I'm going to fight you.
It's just a big fucking clusterfuck. So we'll see how baseball handles this. Hopefully no one else in the All-Star game or All-Star team tests positive. Like I think we were texting earlier, it could be a super spreader event in the AL locker room. And so, like I said, I hope there's no one else really affected by this, but we'll see.
All right, so let's do so a report came out that Tom Brady tore his MCL. And so let me just say this. I'm in love with Tom Brady in the idea of what he represents as a principle, as an idea. I feel like he works harder than The Rock. You know what I mean? Like I love Tom Brady.
That's what I mean by method.
Yeah, that's what I mean by like I'm in love with who he is, like the principle of what he does and the work ethic. However, I don't know what the fucking MCL is, and I refuse to believe that it was that big of a deal. Because here's why, John. Hold on. One, didn't look it up, didn't do any research on MCL is, refused to do that. Okay? You did that. That's what you're there for. Me, I'm not there to research the MCL because I know what it's like. I don't know what it's like. And obviously, like, I can't play on a torn MCL. I couldn't even play fully healthy. So that's besides the point. The point is this. I know that players can't play on an ACL, but they can play on an MCL.
Correct.
That's all I know. So how bad can it really be is my whole thing. And before you rebuttal and tell me how fucking dumb that take is, I'm going to go to the glass and say Brady didn't miss any games. 20 games last season he played. In 2020, Brady threw 4,000 yards, 4,633 yards, 40 touchdowns, 12 picks, and then 10 more touchdowns in the postseason. Okay? That's all I got to say about the MCL.
Super Bowl champion. Tequila got him worse than the MCL did.
Yeah.
No, so I looked into this earlier today because I was kind of astonished. One of my aunts who I text with about the Cowboys was just like, "Can you believe this S about Brady?" I'm like, I have no clue what you're talking about, but when I get home from the dog park, I look this up. And so looked into it. Apparently he snapped the MCL while he was still with the Patriots.
Yes.
And so, I mean, he went through a physical and everything. The Buccaneers were like, "Fuck it, let's run it back." Well, dude, you're whatever, fine, yeah. Dude. And so essentially and on my mom's side, my uncle just snapped his MCL trying to take care of his mom's air conditioning unit.
No shit.
And it was a partial tear, so no surgery required. But if you're on it and using it, it gets worse over time, which is what happened with Brady. And so essentially the MCL, from what I understand, I'm sure someone's going to be like, "You're fucking wrong." But it's the move forward movement. And so it's possible, like the flexibility forward, that it could bend at an awkward angle and move forward without the MCL intact. The ACL is to the side, so you can't juke with the ACL. MCL is just forward. And so you can wear, as we saw with Tom all year, one of those big ass, Wisconsin offensive lineman braces.
Yeah.
And like you could be fine because you're not risking anything forward because that brace will stop your leg from doing that. But obviously, as you mentioned, you just read all the stats. It didn't affect his performance much. And I think the reason it just came out is because he was missing from OTAs after the surgery to fix it. Because my aunt was also questioning. He's like, "Oh, PR team's just trying to make him look even better after the fact. What's the situation there?" And I'm like, "No, it sounds like he just missed some OTAs." Everyone's like, "Why are you missing OTAs?" And then they had to reveal that he, the part that's concerning for me is, was he on the injury report like at all throughout the year?
No, never.
Because you have to report that, right?
You don't have to report that unless he's missing time.
I thought you had to report every injury no matter what.
Maybe. Well, I don't think you have to report it on the injury list because they would have done that, and that would have been a big deal.
Yeah, just like knee probable or whatever.
And if they don't, I mean, I think they're just going to get fined.
Yeah, it's a big fine.
All I'm going to say is you can add play football to the things you can do with the torn MCL. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can't play football with the torn ACL.
And it's the same one he tore his ACL on.
So I
think, same knee.
The infamous that knee's been. So
I think it's the front knee. He steps into his left one.
Yeah.
But I mean, like you mentioned, it didn't really impact his year. But at 43 too. So I'm eager to see how he reacts with two healthy knees at 44. Watch out, world.
We'll see. All right, we'll do some. Now we'll move on to serious injuries. We'll talk about ACLs. So Kawhi Leonard had a grade 2 ACL tear, same as Dinwiddie. Who I just want to mention who tweeted out it's way easier to recover because he had a grade 3 as well when he got drafted. He tweeted out it's way easier to recover from a grade 3. It's way easier to recover than a grade 3 because I mean he just basically said like his knee imploded on a grade 3. So the best case for Kawhi is 6 months, but if
from
we know
surgery,
Kawhi,
right?
Yeah. If we already had it. If we know Kawhi Leonard at all, it's definitely not going to be 6 months. It'll be probably 9 because that's just how he does it. He's just like, dude, I'm not going to play regular season basketball.
Yeah.
And he's very cautious. And I think this is a catastrophe for the Clippers because it was like for Clippers fans because I just do think they're the unluckiest fan base. Because when you look at the best case scenario is that he comes back to full health a year after, this next year, right? But then NBA windows are so short, and he's on a championship contending roster. NBA windows are so short now. You got like 3 years, barring injury, and I just think like you got one window that 1 year, and it's gonna be when he's 33, when like Luka's gonna be
Yeah,
it's gonna be.
in his
You know what I
prime.
mean? Like Luka's gonna be. Devin Booker's gonna get better. Luka's gonna get better. Who knows what the fuck happens with Giannis? Like Giannis's window may be done after. You just don't know.
Yeah.
And so this is when it gets really fucked up. Okay. If he's not fully healthy or does get close to the old Kawhi, you have no picks at all to like retool and get better because you're not going to have a first round pick till the year 2027.
You're saying this with the assumption that he stays with the Clippers.
Right. But why wouldn't he? Why wouldn't he resign with the Clippers?
He's got a player option.
Sure, he's going to decline that. He's going to decline that. Just, I mean, if he declines that, bird rights to kick in at 35% instead of 30%, so he'll be able to get more. He'll be able to get 140.
Yeah, I think he might be gone.
I mean, 190,
right?
Excuse me.
I think he might be gone because.
But where's he going to go?
A team that's competing.
Well, okay, the only other team that can probably afford him off the top right now is like Miami, that he'd be interested in going to. That motherfucker's not interested in going to Dallas. He's not interested in going to Dallas. That man wants to live he lived in Texas. He wanted to get out of Texas. He wanted to go to LA. He went to Toronto for a year and he hates the cold just so he could be in LA.
Not his choice.
Well, he wanted to go to the Lakers, but LeBron went to the Lakers and then he was like, fuck.
Not his choice for Toronto. I'm sorry.
That's what I'm saying. He was willing to do that. Well, I guess he wasn't willing to do that. He had no choice. He was like, yeah, whatever. I'm not going to re-sign. But
yeah,
I think your only other option is Miami. No state income tax.
Texas also.
Team but also Miami. Texas also has no state income tax. But no, you can't say like, oh, Dallas is a better option than because he doesn't want to play. Because whose team is it? If he goes to
Lucas
Dallas?
And KP, Kawhi. That's all, dude. That's all they could ever want is play defense, handle the ball a little bit.
Whose team?
Who cares? He wants to win rings.
If that was the case, he would have gone to the Lakers. He wants to win rings on his own term because he cares about his legacy. Because it's going to be Luka's team because he's the younger player and he's arguably better, maybe. Like they're very close.
But he's never been like an outspoken guy in the locker room, off the court, nowhere. He's not a leader. That's the problem the Clippers have had, right?
Yeah, I agree.
And so he can go somewhere just to slide right in. In Toronto, it was Kyle Lowry, and who's the coach? I'm forgetting his name.
Nick Nurse.
Yeah, and a good situation already there. This is the same thing in Dallas. It might be the same, to your point, in Miami with Jimmy Butler, and Pat Riley and Spoelstra.
Oh, it'll be Kawhi's team if he goes to Miami. Kawhi will be the best player on that team when fully healthy.
Yeah, but like he's not the leader, right? He's not the leader anywhere he goes, and so that's what I'm saying. Is like,
no, I agree, but you go ahead. Sorry.
Maybe he takes this time to reevaluate. Hey, like LeBron, I need to take another star and kind of go under him, like LeBron said he did with Anthony Davis, even though that's questionable at best.
Yeah.
Maybe he does that here, and he goes to Dallas, new regime. What's his name? Nico, the GM, president of basketball operations, and Jason Kidd as a coach. That might be good for him. Say, hey, take the year off, relax. All we need you, Luka can coast till April. We just need you to come back for playoffs, homie.
I don't. It's just not going to happen for Kawhi Leonard to go play with Luka Doncic because it's just not.
He respects the hell out of the way Luka's played against him the last.
For sure, but they played the last two series. The Clippers eliminated them. Not that has any bearing on like Kawhi thinking that Dallas is not good enough. But I'm saying is like one, Dallas. He doesn't want to live in Texas, right?
He doesn't want to live in LA. He lives down here in San Diego and he helicopters up.
Yeah. But to your point, helicoptering to LA is a lot easier than helicoptering to Dallas.
True.
That's the thing. Like it all comes down to me. If he didn't give a shit about living in LA, I would think like, oh, there are other options. Like the only other option I see is Miami. If Kawhi went to Dallas, it's over.
Yeah.
Dallas is winning the championship.
Yeah.
Like it'll be fucking the Nets versus the Mavericks, and we'll see what happens. It'll be really interesting.
Yeah,
but
I mean, we can discuss this obviously in the future because the deadline for him to decline the option or whatever is August 1st, and then free agency starts August 6th.
If he declines the option, I mean, if he accepts the option, then that knee is fucking donezo.
Yeah, that doesn't look good, right?
Yeah, he can't accept it. He has to decline it and then re-sign for the max.
Yeah, 36 million is his deal if he accepts.
Yeah, and he's got to decline that because he wants that 40. Wants that 40, 42, 45.
Yeah, you almost have to decline it. And if you're the Clippers, like you mentioned with the draft pick situation, they have to throw the bank at him.
They have to throw the max at him.
They have no other option.
And they're still, in his mind, a championship contending roster. But it's going to be interesting because what is Reggie Jackson going to do? Because Reggie Jackson is also a free agent. And Reggie Jackson is out that motherfucking window because he's going to get money thrown at him. And Reggie Jackson's like, I don't got to live in L.A. I can go to Dallas.
Well, I don't know because was it the post-season, like after like the final interviews, Reggie Jackson gave one and said that, he just started crying in this interview. He was like so thankful for the Clippers for giving him a shot because he thought he was done in the NBA. And so I feel like, he deserves the way he played in the playoffs. He deserves a fuckload of money, but he might throw the Clippers a little bit of a discount, whether they can afford that or not. I'm not sure, depending on how big the discount is. Maybe he does. Maybe he's like, hey, if Kawhi comes back, I will come back at a discounted price for a year, 2 years, whatever. Yeah. And say, hey, you gave me a shot. I'm loyal to you, and Ty Lue, and that whole regime there to play with PG and Kawhi, and let's run it back. See, we were close, and anything can happen,
Yeah, I think that is a very fair deal. We'll see what happens. I mean, it's Twitter, so whatever. Somebody read a tweet or somebody was like, "Hey, source close to says Reggie Jackson's trying to get paid." So, we'll see because he's got an opportunity and leverage to really get fucking paid. I
will finish all this with one thought or one statement. Mark Cuban, looking right at you, right in the camera. Go sign Kawhi Leonard's uncle and give him a job.
That's it. That's all you got to do. If you just make Kawhi Leonard uncle president.
Ooh.
He's for sure. Just make him president.
President of what?
I don't know.
President of player development?
President of concessions. Make him president of whatever the fuck you want to make Kawhi Leonard's uncle.
Put president on the card.
Make him tell him, listen, Kawhi's uncle, if you come to Dallas, we're going to make you mayor of Dallas. Whatever it takes. Whatever it takes. You want to be king of Dallas, Texas?
Done.
We'll hire Jerry Jones to get assassinated, and you can become the king of Texas or the king of Dallas. It'll work. But let's do Acuna, ACL.
Yeah.
Okay, so Ronald Acuna towards ACL and is out for the season. Okay, let me just say this. There's been, obviously, with Jock Peterson, with the Jock Peterson trade, the Braves haven't given up, but I just want to say this. I look out for the fan, and I think I'm a fan, so I think as a fan, I feel for Braves fans in this regard because there's nothing worse than seeing like your star player go out like that, especially, and I don't necessarily know if, they're only 5 games back of the Mets. I don't necessarily know if it's a winnable division for them, or they're 4 games now. I don't necessarily know if it's a winnable division for them, but the Braves seem to think it is. But just like from the fans' perspective, I would look at this and I would be like, oh, okay, the season's done. So we'll just wait till next fucking April because he's so important to their offense. He's their, I think besides runs, besides RBIs, he leads them in every other offensive category. So it's like, I don't know. There's nothing worse, especially these last few years, than going from a championship contender. There's nothing worse as a fan than going from a fucking championship contending team to middle of the pack, and in an instant it can happen. And you're like, we were contending for championships, we had a window, and now we're just like 3rd in the NL East. It just that sucks. That sucks for fans.
This would be like Milwaukee losing Giannis on a torn ACL in like April, right before playoffs or whatever. He's that good. He's the top 3 player in Major League Baseball. He's vibrant. He's important, not just to the Braves, like you mentioned, but to baseball in general. He was one of the leading vote getters going into the All-Star game. Excuse me. And the way he tore it, going to the wall, looking to make a catch. That's exactly if you want, you never want a star player to get hurt, but if he was to get hurt, he's given 110% for his team trying to get out there, wherever position he's playing. And so I don't think they're going to go anywhere. They're a game under 500. Yeah, they're only 4 back of the Mets. But like you said, this is the life of that lineup. Offensively, he leads them in literally everything, as you mentioned. So I don't see this being something they can come back from. Yeah, they traded for Jock Peterson, who's a nice. As a Dodgers fan, I have close affinity for Jock Peterson, but he's not anywhere close to what Ronald Acuna is. He's like maybe a third offensive production wise.
If he was, the Dodgers wouldn't have traded him.
They would have re-signed him.
Re-signed him.
It's just not great if you're a Braves fan, and I'm so sorry to Atlanta. As a baseball town, as we know Atlanta is.
Yeah, that's right. As the biggest baseball town in America.
It's going to be hard to come back. And so it might now be a basketball town, for the next year or so, thanks to this. But
there's nothing like Atlanta fans. Yeah. Everything that they touch turns into ash. Everything that they love turns into ash.
Unless it's the MLS.
Unless it's the MLS, which is so funny because
although we didn't plan on talking this, but their star striker Joseph Martinez isn't like in camp, so he's like. I'm sorry, Atlanta. I'm sorry. I didn't want to bring it up, but
he's probably looking at. He's like Ronald Acuna.
Yeah,
28-3. I'm next, dude. I can't have this. I can't have this on me.
I don't remember his national. I think he's Colombian, but he's not around.
How crazy would it be if Messi? Because Messi plans to sign to an MLS team. I think he's going to sign with the Miami team.
In a couple years, right?
Yeah, in a couple years. In like 5 years. Yeah. Like when he's 40. Yeah. As every, great soccer player should do, like a great Latin soccer player should do, they should just sign to Miami because it's basically Latin America. In like this little fucking stretch of land. And I just think it would be so hilarious if like he somehow signed with the Atlanta United, or the Atlanta whatever, FC. Yeah. And it was just like all of a sudden forgot to play soccer and got the yips.
So good. He's so good.
No sé qué pasó, es que cuando entré en el campo, en Atlanta, me olvidé cómo jugar fútbol y ya yo no voy a jugar nomás. It's just like
I can't wait.
All right. Okay, so let's do Bradley Beal. So due to health and safety, so this is drama. This is some major drama right now.
You got to fill me in because I got too knowledgeable about this one.
So Bradley Beal, due to health and safety protocols, can't go to the Olympics. He has to quarantine, or he just can't go. So the Olympics start next week, and same with Jeremy Grant, who can't go. So now the U.S. needs to find, I believe, 2 guys to replace them with, and it's really interesting because Trae Young tweeted out, "This is how silly." It is. The NBA is like a fucking middle school. It's a goddamn middle school. NBA Twitter and the NBA is a middle school because Trae Young tweets out Isaiah Thomas from The Last Dance. I thought I made the qualifications, but I guess I didn't. And then he tweeted out the USA flag. John Morant tweeted because they have to like find a replacement, and they said they're looking at Tobias Harris. They're looking at Duncan Robinson. And
the Trae Young was great because he just took a segment of the Dream Team stuff.
That's what I said.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
No. Yeah. You're good. I met the requirement. And then John Morant tweeted out like, "You didn't talk to me before, so don't call me now." And I think that is the shittiest form of just being petty I think like I've seen in a recent case, like not like anything super dramatic. I'm talking not anything high stakes, but I just think like I think if you're John Morant and they call you, you should fucking join the team, even though it's your chance to win a gold medal and you can prove something because they didn't sign you. I just think it's lame, dude. I think it's lame. Even though I'm sure I'm sure maybe he doesn't even want to play anymore. Like I'm sure there's a decent amount of NBA players who are like, nah, dog, like they've ran us rampant for the last 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, we've touched on that a million times about how this season and then obviously the combination of last season just being a complete shit show. So, I mean, I don't see why anyone would want to kind of do this, especially like if you like the NBA is kind of as a whole on like shorter deals. If you got a deal coming up, like why would you go? You got to adjust the rules, and it's just not as extravagant and I don't know. It's not as what's prestigious of a tournament as it used to be. Yeah, I just think. I mean, and like because you're USA basketball, you literally have to get the gold or you suck. Yeah. Right? Like
people are gonna remember you if you don't. But there's no way. There's no way this team doesn't get the gold. That would be because I mean Kevin Durant's on this team. Come on, Kevin Durant's on this team. Who else is on this team that I can't even think of off the top of my head right now?
Kevin Love,
the guy that gets 3 minutes a game.
Yeah,
Kevin Love,
the
great Kevin Love. But besides that, like that's the one big guy they should take off the team. But they're not, I don't think. But I don't know. There's no way they don't win the gold. Yeah, they lost. They lost to Nigeria. Yeah, they lost to, Australia. But
both those teams have a glut of NBA players, though.
Yeah, second stringers and third stringers.
No, there's a lot of good talent on those teams.
Yeah, of course there's. That's
Patty Mills.
Patty Mills. I'm not saying the Predator. I'm not saying that these guys stink. All I'm saying is, I heard a great take on this from Ryan Russillo. He was like, "Hey, if you had the first 5 picks, who are you taking? You taking all the 5 guys to start for the USA basketball team? Then yeah, like we're still the best talent, and we should win." So
yeah,
Kevin Durant's on that fucking team, dude. You know what I mean? Like Kevin Durant's on a team with like other all-stars.
I'd be worried about that. What's the Achilles on him, man? He's putting a lot of wear and tear just coming back.
Putting a lot of miles on that. I was surprised that he wanted to play for Team USA.
Mm-hmm.
I was very surprised by that. So I mean,
he just wants to give the world the middle finger, dude. That's all he wants to do now.
He just wants to hoop.
He's got his rings, he's got his MVPs, he's got his championships and all that stuff, and accolades. I think he just wants to raise a finger to everyone who just said he couldn't come back.
John, this is my point. Kevin Durant is a 14-year-old. All NBA basketball players besides LeBron James and Bradley Beal are like 14-year-olds. I
would say LeBron's part of that. He's the ringleader.
He's the 16-year-old.
Yeah.
You know, there's so like these guys. They're such babies, man. Like,
it's great.
I love the game of basketball. I think it's a lot of fun to watch. But I think like the NBA Twitter and I think the NBA is my least favorite. Besides the cool shit that they do, which is like besides LeBron starting a school and like all that shit, obviously, I just need to throw that caveat in there. But some of the things that they do is like so petty. Everyone's so petty.
It's almost like 2 sports, right? It's like on the court, off the court.
It's so weird.
I mean, going back to like Derek Fisher and Matt Barnes, that the whole love triangle.
So crazy.
It's amazing, dude. And like, who's the dude that pulled the gun in the Wizards locker room? Gilbert Arenas. Dude, there's just so much shit. Like, it seems like it's been going on for decades, and now that we have Twitter, we're just getting to see all of it, and it's amazing. And like, as we were talking about Kevin Durant and Lana Rhoades a couple of weeks ago, like all of it, dude. It's so great. It's just the best reality show you could ever imagine.
It's just nuts. It's just it really is. It's fucking it's just a bunch of fucking babies. But all right, let's do the last thing, over under. So we're just gonna do over under. It's gonna be a fun segment that we'll do every now and again. Okay, so it's basically for the people listening, we're basically doing all baseball props and that we came up with, and then one basketball prop. Okay, so Shohei Ohtani over under 25 home runs.
So he's at 32. That would put him at 57. Damn. Oof, that's a good one. I think Bellinger at 49 was maybe Alonso hit 50. Pete Alonso, who won the home run derby, maybe a year or two ago. I want to say he does because I want to see it, but there's a lot of evidence he won't. Man, that's a good one. Honestly, can I call it even? Right, like
you want to push?
There, that's what a betting term I was looking for. Push,
yeah, push. Yeah, no, you can't push because it's called over under, not over.
Damn it.
Push under.
Okay, I'm gonna go over.
You're gonna go over?
I want to see it, but I'll give you reasons as to why he could possibly not. It's go under. The league learns how to pitch to him. They start pitching around him as they did Bonds in the early 2000s. Or he gets hurt. He's been prone to get hurt. Obviously, in a couple of years, he's been in the big leagues. He has pretty significant injuries over time. Or they just start resting him more. I don't know. Those could be the reasons as to why, and they're all pretty freaking obvious. But I want to see him do this. I think he's great for the game. Fuck Stephen A. Smith, and I think he's the face of baseball now.
Right. So, I think under. I think under because of all the besides I watched him in the home run derby. I don't know if it was just the pitching. I don't know if he was the world's worst pitcher ever because they made a point to say he hadn't pitched. That guy hadn't pitched to him since March, and then he just.
Well, yeah, we had just talked about that, right?
Yeah, we just talked about that
about how he hadn't had a batting practice.
Yeah, so I'm gonna say under just because I've never. It hasn't been. I haven't seen it done where somebody gets close to 60. Who's the last person that got close to 60? Chris Davis, 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, I think he had 58 or something like that.
And then he got he was broken. He was right broken after.
Yeah.
So I just don't. I don't know. I've never seen anybody because getting to 57 or getting to 58. I don't know. I just don't think. I don't see it happening. If he does it, he's a fucking legend. If he gets to 62, he's a fucking legend. And if I just want him, I want it to go over so badly because then I think people will start doing national baseball stories, and it would just be a lot of hype. And unfortunately, the Angels aren't going to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
But
what I want to see is them shut him down for pitching because he hits his innings limit in mid-August, and then for the last month and a half, he's just
rakes.
Fuck it, dude. Let's do this.
Let's just fucking rake.
Yeah.
All right, next one. Over under 1.99 ERA for Jacob deGrom for the season. Now, I'm assuming he has 12 to 15 starts left. That's for the audience so they know. He's got a 1.08 ERA. He's had 15 starts this season. He's clearly far and away the best pitcher in baseball. He's also fucking good hitter. He's the fucking man. He's going to win the MVP. He's going to win the Cy Young. It's not even close, even if you parlayed it, which you can't even, which you could try, but it would still, he's minus 1,000, so you wouldn't even do that. Yeah. What do you think?
I think under, mostly because I think his season's going to get shut down earlier than we think because he's been running into some arm issues with a lat strain, forearm, I think was one of them, over the last month and a half or so. So as I've mentioned, throughout the months on this show is that all these pitchers are going to start hitting their innings limits based on what they did last year and the year before, right? And so I feel like something might hit a snag because we're getting all the warning signs. If you don't change the oil in your car, eventually you're going to run into a warning light, bigger warning light. Then you start hearing shit in the engine. I feel like that's kind of where we're going. Even though the Mets have been very, very careful with him. I think we're past the point of return with his arm, unfortunately. And this is all based on decades of watching baseball, right? But at the same time, on the flip side of that, he's a fucking alien, right? He's never seen this before. So I think under because his season ends in early September or late August.
All right, so looking at his innings pitched, he's got in 2017 201, 2018 217, 2019 204, and then in 2020 obviously is shortened, so he had 68. He's at 92 right now.
Yeah, so that's already a lot. So I feel like his cap's probably at 150.
I mean, we'll see. I mean, he's basically gone over 150, excluding the 2020.
Yeah,
he's gone over 150 basically. 6 of the, or I guess 5 of the 7 times.
Yeah, it's a big jump in innings. So I think that's going to be a prevailing factor in why I think he gets shut down early.
Well, yeah. Well, there you go. I was gonna say under because he's just that dominant.
Yeah.
All right. So 6 games over under for the Suns and Bucks NBA Finals.
I don't think they've figured each other out. I think that there's one team, like we had mentioned, one team just plays like shit. The other prevails. So I think over. I think this goes 7.
Okay, I also think it goes 7. I think, yeah, I agree with you. I think that the big portion of this is also home court. I think the home court team's going to win out every single time. I got Suns in 7.
Yeah, put that on a shirt.
Suns in 7. There you go. Suns fans are the worst now. Ever since that, Suns fans just think they're the toughest guy on the block.
There was that video that just came out, I think, that you're alluding to, is where like Suns fans were fighting each other.
Yeah, they're fighting each other. Every Suns fan wants to be the next Suns in 4 guy.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous. Yeah. I'll never forget when I was at the Clippers Suns game 3, and I saw Suns fans just looking around like they were ready to fucking fight. I was like, dog, what are we doing here? This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
All right, so 2 more left. 15 games. Chris Bryant plays for the Cubs. Over under 15 games.
Under.
So under. So he's going to get traded before the deadline.
Yeah, I think the Jock Peterson trade is kind of like let me put my toes in the pool just to see how I like this.
Cubs fans on Twitter, because I follow some Cubs fans on Twitter, they are melting. They've been melting.
Yeah, they need to trade him, Rizzo, and Baez and most likely Contreras, because those 3 dudes are free agents after this year, so they need to get something for them. Yeah, you can get the compensation picks.
Compensatory pick. Compensatory. There it is. Compensatory.
Yeah.
We weren't gonna. Full disclosure, I wasn't gonna allow us to keep going without saying that correctly.
Yeah, compensatory. Got it. Nailed it. All right. The executive bargaining agreement is coming due December 1st. It expires. So the compensatory picks that Cubs might get for those players if they leave as free agents might differ, right? So teams like the Giants with Bumgarner a couple years ago were willing to allow these players to walk because they were getting a pick in the 32 to 40 range in the following year's playoff or draft. Well, that's not guaranteed, depending on if that changes anything with the bargaining agreement, right? And so it's imperative that the Cubs get value in return for these guys because they're not sure of what they're getting in terms of the compensatory picks in the future.
That's so 3 for 3, John.
Yeah.
We fuck compensatory in the ass, John.
Yeah.
Compensatory. Okay.
Compensatory. Yeah.
Yeah. I just think, I've been following along with Cubs Twitter melting over this roster, melting over what's going to happen with their team and how the Cubs themselves have been having a meltdown. So I just think he's gone. I saw maybe the Mets might be an option for the Cubs, which would be interesting.
For Bryant?
Yeah, for Chris Bryant. So
I've heard a lot of the Padres.
The Padres are aggressive. That would be a move. But what do you do with Manny Machado?
Oh, Bryant plays left field, right field, first base, third base.
Oh, so that's right.
You could play him.
That's right. He can play multiple positions.
Yeah, they would most likely slot him in right field.
All right, so last one. Over under a season left for Brian Cashman as GM of the New York Yankees.
Man, he's been there since I want to say like 96.
25 years.
Yeah, 96. I think he might be tired of the job and wants to go somewhere else.
Does he?
I could see that happening.
But because I think it's under just because the Yankees have once and I don't know, maybe Hal Steinbrenner is just not maybe Hal Steinbrenner's pushed to it just from the media and everybody being like, you're not your fucking father.
Yeah.
And then he's just like crying, I am my father. And fires everybody. But this team, people had this team going into the World Series. So
this year maybe
I'm saying like not just like evaluators in the media, but I'm saying like handicappers. There were people who believed that this team was going to go into the World Series, and now they're 4th in the AL East, and they're 8 games behind the Red Sox. They've been swept by the Red Sox twice, and I just don't see how. I mean, they've had injuries, right? So maybe that saves Brian Cashman, but I don't know. I just think 25 years is a long time to continue to do a job, and I feel like maybe it's time to go.
I don't think he gets fired. I think he resigns. I think it's under, but I think he resigns.
Yeah.
Because it's been so long, right? Like, it's just, you need to change. It's like we just talked about a couple weeks ago with the Mavericks, where Donnie Nelson and Rick Carlisle have all been there for a decade plus. Donnie Nelson 2 decades. Eventually you just need like a new way of thinking, right? Like, it's obviously not working. They haven't won a World Series since 2009. They've been on the precipice of winning one or getting to one. In 2017, the Astros cheated them out of the opportunity to go to one.
Yeah.
So really, I think he's done, and he might just either pull the Theo Epstein and retire and join the major league front, the office, and do whatever he can there, because it is in New York, or take a couple years off and then pick it up, with a new team.
I only see him going and doing what Joe Torre did before him, what Theo Epstein did before him, and what I believe he'll do if he resigns. It's just like work for Major League Baseball. Like you said, it's in New York. Every fucking league office is in New York. So it just makes the most sense.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I imagine him taking maybe 2 or 3 years off after resigning this year, and then seeing where the Mets are in terms of their situation.
Steve Cohen,
yeah,
those big bucks, billion. He's the richest of the Major League Baseball owners. All right, thank you for listening. Appreciate you. You can subscribe on Apple Podcasts. You can follow us on Spotify. You can also subscribe on the YouTube channel, First Team Second String. Follow us on TikTok and Instagram, First Team Second String. And you can follow me at Bry_Alonzo. You can follow John at --Avilas --. And then just enjoy. Underscore, excuse me. Not dash. Underscore. Just enjoy your weekend. Enjoy your weekend. That's it. And you got anything to say, John?
Hi, family. Hope you're listening. If not, you're no longer family.
Boom. You're no longer fucking blood family. All right. Thank you so much. And have a great weekend.